Okay, and so hello people, you're in role play. I'm going to read this little piece that is from a neuroscience magazine. I think it's like Neuroscience Today or something. And it says, quote, "Our research shows that it is not movement per se that helps us to think more flexibly," says neuroscientist Dr. Barbara Hendel from Julius Maximilians Universität Würzburg in Bavaria. Instead, the freedom to make self-determined movements is responsible for it. So it's not being told what to do in moving, it's having agency over your movement. That was my own insertion. The rest of the quote, accordingly, even small movements while sitting can have the same positive impacts on creative thinking. So, I mean, I don't think this is any surprise to any of us, but when we move freely, we think freely. When we free up our body, we free up our mind. So I want to start with that idea. There's two ideas I want to play with today, and one of them is spiraling and micro spiraling. So imagining that, like, it doesn't have to be this massive twist or some big yoga stretch or anything like that, but just tiny little spirals to create this sense of freedom and something to explore and play within ourselves. So let's just start. I'm going to be seated. We'll eventually get down to the floor to roll around, and I may or may not add music at some point. But let's start coming into a landing. Maybe in stillness, you can also do this laying down, but in your stillness, in your sense of coming into yourself, you can close your eyes or leave your eyes open, either way. Feeling the rise and fall of your breath. And allowing your awareness to drop into the movement that is there. So it's not trying to make something happen. Although if something's happening, you can allow it to happen. You can listen into the sort of natural rhythms of your body. And we're going to start with extending the exhale. So inhaling for how long it feels good, and then exhaling, and see if you can extend the exhale. What we're going to add to make the exhale longer is a little tiny bit of constriction in the back of your throat. So that sounds, if you've practiced yoga and have done ujjayi breathing, it's like that, but we're just going to homeopathically distill ujjayi breathing down to like a tiny little drop of it. So instead of it being, it's like barely anything there, very, very gentle. So that is a breath I learned about from Continuum, and they call it Luna breath. And one thing you could imagine with Luna breath is that you're like in outer space. And as you're in outer space, you're not hearing Darth Vader breath, but you're hearing like your own natural exhale, very soft, very gentle. And if it's too curious and you're like, what is she talking about? I don't get it. Then let it go and just breathe normally. So if like ujjayi is a bird flying or a bird flapping its wings, the Luna breath is like a Luna moth or a Luna, like a butterfly, very gently floating, barely moving the wings at all, but really soft and gentle. With that breath, allowing yourself to receive yourself as is, no need to change, to fix, but just to take yourself in a non-judgmental, just there it is way, witnessing or witnessing yourself. And from that sort of landing place, allowing the micro movement to come in whatever way feels interesting and good. And you can take this into full on movement. It could go big, or you can stay very small, very gentle. And what I kind of feel like for myself with the idea of micro spirals happening is that it's this whole dance of aliveness in my body. It's very octopus-like, but there could be little spirals here, little spirals there, things moving in different ways. Tiny, tiny bits. I just muted you, Anne. Yeah. And as I'm doing it, what I'm sensing is a lightness comes into my body. There's like this little freedom, and then there's a sensation of lightness, because in order to allow this micro movement of spiraling, little tiny spirals, which could be happening in multiple different places. If we think of our DNA spiral, that's a spiral. It's a spiral that's happening in our body. But we could also think of how the fluid moves through, even like our venous system, how the blood is whooshing and whooshing through different parts of our body. Or even how like the fascia, as it moves, is drawing in water, squeezing out, drawing in. So there's this gentle shifting, awakening. Inviting the sensation of micro spirals into your body and allowing them to express in, I want to say, almost like a quantum way, so that there's like this something maybe happening over here, something in a totally different place. Maybe there's a spiral in my body that's relating to a spiral in your body. So letting this spiraling be something that's really not so much a thought pattern as a energetic feeling pattern that is going well beyond you, even while it's in you. And allowing yourself to become curious, tuning into that. So when I sort of free up my nervous system to express in whatever way feels good to me, and I'm not forcing my body into a pattern, but I'm letting things arise, I'm often surprised at what arises, because sometimes I think, well, oh, I'm going to turn this way and then it's going to do that. But if I really listen in, it does something completely different. So giving yourself full permission to drop away the sort of voluntary nervous system action of I'm doing these things and tune into this deeper layer of energetic pattern, that you're allowing some breathing space, allowing some freedom. And I'm going to actually take it down onto the floor. And you may want to, you can be in any position for this. It could be very interesting to play in quadruped, but also for me, like I'm just being really called to land into the floor. And so originally, the original idea with role play was that we would do all this rolling around to hydrate fascia, to soften, to let the nervous system kind of reset. But I don't think that's the right analogy for it. It sometimes is that, but it can also be like more about processing than about resetting. So we're not trying to get back to a place where we were before. We're trying to process and allow stuff to come and move through us so that we're actually going to arrive at a different place, a new place. So we're shifting the paradigm, not resetting back to the factory settings or whatever that means, whatever that would be. But we're allowing, in this experimentation and in this movement, we're allowing the fluid system to inform our movement, and also the nervous system. So there's a sort of like electrical, energetic component going on. Inviting any kind of sticky, mucky, murky bits to kind of filter through, melt, and clear away. And if you find that there's like sometimes, like when I first started doing this kind of work, it was very easy for me to feel any pain area in my body. So I would immediately be going in there and trying to just move around with that pain area and see if I could bring more fluidity to that. So that's a great way to find yourself in there. But if it's possible, also try to feel, where does it feel so good? and tune into that all, go back and forth between maybe the less comfortable thing that you might be trying to work with or through, and then also just the really delicious stuff that's like, I'll take some more of that. And inviting in that micro spiraling into the whole system. It could turn into huge macro spiraling or anything else. So you are allowed to do anything that feels good to you, anything that feels delicious in your exploration. Yeah, open up that you can arrive at the unexpected. And if your mind is trying to take over and lead in one direction, as soon as you notice where it's leading, go somewhere different. So yeah, let your body take the lead. And the best way, I think, to find that is just to follow what's interesting or where you feel sensation, where your awareness is. It might be very pinpointed or it might be expansive. The attention may be within you on the inside, or maybe it's more on the outside. So I did this, I'm in the middle of this breath work course it's an Alchemy of Breath course with Anthony Abbagnano. And in the first session, he asked a question and he just kept repeating the question. And we were to just write down one word to the answer. And I feel like it's a nice thing to think about. And just you can freely answer it. If you feel like writing anything down, by all means, you can always write something down. But this is his idea, not mine. But it's such a good idea. And it's just to ask the question, what do you want? Oh, just a simple, what immediately comes to mind answer. And again, what do you want? What do you want? Maybe it's the same every time, or maybe it changes every time. Just peeling away the layers of what's underneath the what do you want? As I start to tune into that, there's some real shifts in my body. What do you want? I'm going to add my own version, and it's what would feel good right now. What would feel good right now? What would feel good in your body right now? So when we do any kind of inquiry practice most of the inquiry practice that I've been trained to do has not been sort of goal oriented. It's more just like listen in, tune in, see what's there. But I feel like now we're at a point in our planet and in the situation where we actually have to start, asking questions in the inquiry practice so that we can steer or swim in the river that we want to swim in. Steer ourselves in the directions we want to be moving in. And if we can do that as we're in movement in our bodies, it's like we can call out and call in. micro spiraling, macro spiraling. And in a sense, what we're inviting our bodies to do is to kind of release any kind of blockages that might be holding us back or holding our energy field back or not connected in a way that we want to be. So you're inviting your body and the wisdom and intelligence of your own system to shift things within you, to allow more spaciousness, more connectedness, whatever it is that you would like. More magic, more fun, whatever it is. It might just be more work. And if you are asking for more work, is it really work that's nourishing you? Is it work that you want to be doing? Is it work that feels good in your body? I'm going to add some music. I'm going to play some Jeff Gersh, which is like all of this. He's actually making this music with guitar without using any effects, but it sounds like it's really affected. So it's very somatically engaging for me. So I'm going to use this. Let me know if it's too loud or if I need to turn it up. It takes a minute to get. Can you hear it? Thumbs up if yes. Good. Giving yourself permission to conjure up your own most excellent experience in your body. Just what would that be like? Or to soften and melt away anything that is not helping you right now. And if you feel like you kind of get stuck somewhere, shift your perspective, turn your head, look around, shift your body, change your relationship to space. Yeah, so when I'm doing this type of movement, I am in no way thinking about my muscles or how like my muscles and joints work or any kind of mechanical version of my body. I'm going full on like octopus, letting intelligent systems that are ancient, primordial intelligent systems inform my movement. And it doesn't have to be spectacular or, oh my God, look at that, it's this amazing movement. It could just be tiny and delicious. So don't worry about what it looks like. Just worry about what it feels like. Let yourself surprise yourself. Inviting in pleasure, micro spirals, macro spirals. And staying very open to any kind of guidance that comes up. And I don't mean the guidance from me, I mean anything that maybe your guides or your body or your ancestors or the ones who oversee or help you, any of those extra people, folks, entities, energies that are working for you, with you, in accord. Yeah, if anything comes up, listen in, take it in. And if things start to get too weird or too out there, you can always just lay in Shavasana. You could walk around, you could do a cat-cow. Even just looking around is going to bring you back into the here and now. If you sort of get out there into the more trippy places and you don't want to be there, it's easy to come back. Tell yourself, I can come back, and you will. Generally, if we're seeking more creativity or more freedom, then we want to try not to get stuck in a looping pattern, but keep shifting it, keep changing things, seeking the novel, seeking novel movement, seeking something that's different. The old pattern, if you're ready, let it start to release and find some new patterning. Like whatever you're seeking isn't going to be in the old pattern. It's all going to be in new patterning. One could even say that tomorrow is in new patterning. So finding ways to holistically, in an integrated manner, invite in those shifts and changes in the pattern. So it's not some horrible seismic shift, but just gentle, could be micro changes happening. Easier to accept micro, small little shifts and changes than massive, huge ones. Yeah, and you can take this up if that feels good. If you're called to ascend, by all means, do that. I'm on my creaky floor. slowly fade that out. Yeah, that's Jeff Gersh, Ambient Fields. And it's on Bandcamp, so it's all available. He's got a bunch of ones. This is 2, number 2. Letting yourself come in. And before we come back together, before I close out the video, let's just take a few minutes in. You may be still moving, or maybe you're ready to let it not move as much. Maybe coming back into that extended exhale. So anytime we use that extended exhale, we're going to down regulate. It's going to take us down. And I find that that particular Luna breath really brings me in. It centers me, and I find a focus in myself that I rarely find. Or I have rarely found. So I use that breath to really be able to come into a sensation that's deeply related to midline for me. It might be very different for you. And if you feel like that breath is a totally elusive thing, then just don't worry about it and breathe normally. But if it's possible, coming back to that extended exhale with just the slightest tiny little bit of, just so you can hear it inside of your own head. And so I was talking about this in my first class today, in the somatic mat class, but let's come back to it in this class before we finish. And that is just turning your head so small that you can barely feel that you're moving. Your breath can go, you can just go into any kind of natural breathing. Eyes closed. And feeling into what sensations that brings up for you. My cat's making a lot of weird snoring noises right now. I don't know if he's having a dream or something, but I can hear him with this little fussing sounds coming out. On that note, I'm going to stop recording. Everyone in TV land, please like and subscribe. And feel free to stay in this meditation for as long as you want to. And thanks for showing up.